Good morning, sports fans. It's Mark Oldowski Halpern here on the Sunday Sideline Report on the Sports Insanity Network, brought to you by the one and only Dugout of Millwood. Before we get started on our day and we kick off what's going to be an interesting day in football, we have a special shout out to Rudy Campos and Sweep the League. Mark, Rocky, Candace, and Shemaya, we are listening. We love what you're putting out. And the mock football draft you guys did, yeah, we got a lot to talk about, but we're not even halfway through the season. And you can see Mike laughing because Mike sent you his and the one the group put together. So good morning, guys. How are you all, everybody? How we doing today?
Gonna be a
On the
fun
outside
week.
of the rain, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, besides cloudy skies and freezing cold, yeah, I'm all right.
Dan, how you
Freezing.
doing?
I'm nervous because the Jets are playing the Giants and um they're coming off a bye week and history shows that the Jets are terrible off bye weeks. So not a good time to be facing the Giants, especially since they found their quarterback, Mr. Tyrod Taylor. And I don't care what anyone says, Tyrod Taylor is going to be the quarterback for the rest of the season.
Well, it's
That
Sunday. It's
oh,
football. We're going to give it off to the guy who has three names, but we're only allowed to use one. Mike, the pun master Rifkin, get us going.
You're only allowed to use one. It's like the old Spider-Man Family Guy meme. Everybody
Yes.
gets one. Tell him, Peter. Apparently, everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one.
All right. As Mark mentioned, we will cover the week ahead in the NFL. We're going to talk a little Browns. We will talk about Tyrod Taylor as well. But we'll also talk trade deadline. But we'll start with what happened Thursday night. And I'm not even talking about the old guy in the Josh Allen t-shirt. If you guys have not seen that, look it up. It is hilarious. Um, but the Buffalo Bills moved to 5-3 on the season with a 24-18 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield 25 of 42, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Josh Allen 31 of 40, 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. All right. Mark, since I guess in distance you're the closest to Buffalo, I'll start with you.
Yeah.
Is the sky still falling or is everything okay?
Well, as I looked outside and I saw how the Bills turned over it was really a great football game. I didn't have a dog in the fight and I enjoyed watching it. But after watching the way Josh Allen played, I think there is some concern in Buffalo. Even though they did get the win, he just didn't seem himself, even though he had a stellar day. I mean, everything. I mean, I the element that I think is lacking in Buffalo is still the run game, and that we'll get into with trade possibilities. But the Buffalo defense letting apprentice young man Baker, who's trying to win him way to another team, to go that accurate and no turnovers, that can't happen. If Buffalo wants a shot at winning the AFC East, they're gonna have to beat Miami to do it. And right now, I don't think they can.
No, from our group chats, it would seem the sky is falling in Buffalo.
Yeah, we won't name names here, but yeah, it would seem like the sky is falling. um, I I'm kind of in the middle when it comes to the Buffalo Bills right now.
Mhm.
The I'm not so far done with them as to say the sky is falling and they're gonna fall off and they're gonna not compete for the rest of this year. I'm not there yet. Now I am with Mark though. Are there problems on this team? Yeah, the defense is nowhere near what it was the last couple of years. Mike, we've done the wishbone shotgun, and I've told you guys for a couple of years now, the Buffalo Bills need a run game. That is their biggest weakness. Josh Allen has to do everything himself. He was their second leading rusher with 7 carries for 41 yards and a touchdown. And that's great and all, but when your main guy, James Cook, is getting 7 more carries than him and he's only averaging about 20 yards more than Josh Allen, that's a problem. You need more in the run game for the Buffalo Bills. So Josh Allen is fine to me, but they need to add more. And we'll get into the trade deadline here soon. But yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. Like the sky isn't falling, but there are definite things that I'm like, I'm worried about this team.
Dan, where are you on the Bills?
There has to be some legitimate criticism of Josh Allen. I know he had a better game, but let's be real. The Buccaneers are not that good either. And we have to start critiquing him because it seems like, except for the Patriots, obviously, it seems like he has better games against some of the worst teams in the NFL. But then when it comes to big time games, he tends to struggle a bit or he tends to freak you out a little bit. And it's not just Josh Allen, it's the entire team. I think there's issues, obviously, with the quarterback, even though again, I'll give him his flowers. He played fairly decent on Thursday. There's also issues. I 100% agree with Noah. Running game is a massive issue. And I'm just going to just flat out say it. I think problem's coaching. I think we have to start addressing that part of it too, because Sean McDermott has gotten pass after pass after pass after pass because of the fact that the Bills are in a much better place as a franchise than they were years ago. And he obviously was the one to break the playoff drought and then, of course, almost lead them to Super Bowls in back-to-back years. But again, I think the legitimate criticism of this Bills team has to start being brought out because they're a flawed team. If you cannot beat up a crappy Giants team at home when they are at their absolute worst, absolute rock bottom, then that's a massive problem. And then the next week can't beat the Patriots. At least you beat the Giants. Can't beat the Patriots. Mm-hmm. So I think there needs to be legitimate criticism. I mean, that's on the Bills side. We know the Bucks are terrible. I mean, and I know that the record may show that they're better than what they are, but let's be real. Buccaneers stink, and so does Todd Bowles.
Well, we'll flip it to the Bucks in a second. If you do listen to Wishbone Shotgun, I've said a lot about the Bills when it comes to Josh Allen running the ball. I don't love it as a part of the offense. I know they utilize it, but I can't get the Dak Prescott injury out of my head because if that happens to Josh Allen, the Bill season's over.
Fully over.
It is over. They have too many injuries on defense to overcome, but there are guys who need to show up. Von Miller, why'd we pay you a lot of money if you can't get to the quarterback? They need a corner in the worst way. Offensively, it was nice to see Dalton Kincaid finally get involved. It was also nice for my fantasy team that he got involved. But Khalil Shakir, pretty good. Gabe Davis, we've been waiting for a Gabe Davis game. It can't just be the Stephon Diggs show for Josh Allen. He has to be able to get other guys involved. If this is a sign of things to come with Gabe Davis and Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir, awesome. But Noah's right. They got to establish a running game. Now, they are very quick to abandon that run game. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the offensive line, if they don't trust James Cook, but they abandoned it very quickly to go into the Josh Allen be Superman. That's what we want. And that's why right now they're not up there in the elites of the AFC. They don't have the run game. They have too many injuries on defense. So we're going to have to wait and see how this goes. But They have a big showdown next week when they go to Cincinnati, and they'll go from there. But that's where the Bills stand. The Bucks as well. They move to, I believe they are now 4-4,
3-4.
3-4.
I know they're 3-4. But I'm ready to put a fork in because I don't trust them. Dan can attest to this. The head coach stinks. The quarterback stinks. The best player on their offense is older. I'm out on the Buccaneers. Shoot the cannon off and blow this thing up because this team, and this is the problem when you bring in Tom Brady. You're built to win for when Tom Brady's there. There is no plan for Lab, better known as life after Brady.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy to say, like, we would think a team at 3-4, we could confidently put a fork in them, like you said. But you can on the Buccaneers because they're one game back of the division.
Yeah, division's awful.
The division's awful. The Atlanta Falcons currently lead the division at 4-3. And, of course, you've got the Panthers who are 0-6, so they're out of it. But the Saints are 3-4, but they've been a massive disappointment from what I expected. And Falcons are 4-3, but is anyone really trusting the Falcons right now? And Desmond Ridder?
See, last
my
year,
takes on this.
We've talked about this. Who is Desmond Ridder? What is he supposed to be? The kid has talent. I think the problem is they wasted that pick and wasted that money on Kyle Pitts. And he's the thing that's really slowing down this offense because, yeah, he had one good game, which I believe was in London. I think that's where he had his first touchdown and 7-reception game. He can't do it here. They need to shed him, get a new tight end that can actually draw coverage, and that's going to open up Drake London and make room for Bijan Robinson and stuff like that. They need a legitimate, center part of the offense.
Or they'll just say Bijan Robinson is sick and not tell anybody.
And that is another story we're following, and when we're able to fully comment on that, we will.
Yeah, the league is looking into that. But Mark, where are you on the Bucks?
Okay, so the Buccaneers, let's put it this way. If it was 3-4 and Tom Brady's there, and this gut wrenches me to say, it's like turning the knife in my stomach, I believe they would still be a playoff team because it's Tom Brady. Now, fast forward to now that it's a little apprentice Baker Mayfield who kind of had a Johnny Manziel-ish like time without the alcohol in Cleveland and all that, and didn't really get anywhere he was going. He's kind of showing right now in Tampa the person he was when he came out of college, and that he's finding Evans and he's finding Godwin and he's making some smart plays. I don't think that team has a chance, especially that they're still kind of putting it together. You also have to figure that Evans is going to be gone after this year and whatnot, unless they seem to bring in something better. And I think that was the attempt with Baker, who could get the ball downfield, but it just hasn't translated to that.
Now, let me ask you guys this, because I'll continue with the Baker thought process. Baker feels like a Band-Aid for after Tom Brady leaving, and feels like, okay, we still kind of like our roster, but we're going to fill the biggest position of need with kind of a stopgap guy. There really isn't a competition. It's Baker or it's Kyle Trask, who has never played in an NFL game. So why wouldn't you at either some point either say, okay, we're going to draft a quarterback, or, and I hate saying this because it feels like the other way of what they just did with Brady. What if they were to have said in the offseason, Aaron Rodgers, would you want to stay in a bay? Just make it Tampa Bay? Or does neither one make sense and they should consider starting this thing over?
I think it's, to me, it's the second one, Mike. You hit the nail on the head. Neither one made sense because like we've seen this year with Tampa Bay, the offensive line, not that good. It's Tristan Wirfs and friends. Like, that's it. He's the one good offensive lineman, and even he's having a bad year. The run game with Rachaad White. We thought Rachaad White would take off this year. Nope. Doing nothing. And, that might not even be all his fault because, like I just said, the offensive line is terrible. So he really doesn't have the room to run. The defense, it has its moments of brilliance, but other than like those fleeting moments, there are a lot of times where they give up a lot that they should not be giving up. Case in point, the Bills game. I mean, they let Josh Allen. While we criticize Josh Allen, like Dan said, we should give him his flowers. Josh Allen went 31 of 40. He had 31 completions. And he only had 9 incompletions. That's ridiculous numbers for a quarterback, even in the NFL. And then as far as the wide receivers, it's like, yeah, Evans is great. Godwin's fine. But outside of those two, there really isn't much else to love on this team. So I think Aaron Rodgers, even if Aaron Rodgers came to Tampa Bay, I don't think they're in much better position. Are they probably winning the division? Yeah, because they're probably 4-3, 5-2. But I don't see him as a top contender in the NFC, even with Aaron Rodgers. And then going rookie, you got too many guys who are trying to win now, and they're going to be hard to trade or get rid of.
Noah and Mike made very good points, and I just want to make it quick before I pass it over to Dan. The one thing you also have to look at is expiring contracts. And if they're going the way they are, there are players like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin who has another year left. Trade deadlines in 2 days. They could do that and get some picks to start rebuilding, like Mike originally said, and Noah commented on. That's another possibility. Danny boy.
I mean, at this point, we have to start. The Bucks have to start making changes. I think both teams have to start really looking deep into themselves and really think about, like, how are we going to get better than what we are today? Because both teams, especially Tampa Bay, how do we get better? Because there's still plenty of season left, and situation like the Buccaneers, they could still make the playoffs as a division winner, and it's crazy how that's the case. The South Division is probably the worst division in all football, and has been for a very long time. So they have an advantage here, in a sense, and they really have to start thinking about getting weapons, and stuff. Maybe a big time offensive lineman for better protection. Definitely better defense. Can't get a 24 points bet to win. And then obviously utilize your weapons, come up with better play calling, and I don't know. If it doesn't work out by the end of the year, you seriously have to consider firing the coach. Then all that stuff. It's something that has to be looked at, pretty much.
Yeah, so we'll see what's going on with the sinking ship in Tampa. They play the Houston Texans next week, I believe.
They do.
Yeah, so
and
the Bills will play the Bengals. That's
not going to be an easy game.
No, let's give the Texans their flowers. Yeah. They played pretty good so far.
They've kept pace.
Speaking of the Texans, you can't talk Texans without talking about the greatest massage a person has ever asked for. Deshaun Watson. He will not play today for the Cleveland Browns against the Seattle Seahawks. with a shoulder injury that he had a couple of weeks ago, but he still played last week and re-aggravated it. Mark, do the Cleveland Browns have a Deshaun Watson problem?
Yeah, they have it on two fronts, actually. So he gets two massages at the same time. Um, the first problem
Back and the front?
yeah, I just wasn't going there. Uh, I'm just going on. First one is the financials. This guy was given a guaranteed ride. He has no incentive. He's paid. He's done. So now what is we look at the other thing is Cleveland is thinking and protecting its investment. This I do understand. I understand the business aspect of it as well. I mean, you sign a guy for that type of money, you're not going to risk a guy you're guaranteeing $200+ million if his throwing arm gets even hurt more and his career is over. Now you look at what the Cleveland Browns are. They have probably the best defense in football. Okay. And that's hard to say when you look at the likes of San Francisco, Philadelphia, Dallas. I mean, this defense, the Jets, this defense is lights out and is strong. But when you look at the offensive side, you do not have a starting quarterback. Your starting running back is gone for the season with a torn MCL. And luckily, I mean, and this is luckily, Kareem Hunt was available to come back and knew the program. So you're not having to spend an extra amount of time for him to learn the playbook. So I think I said a twofold, I think it's a threefold thing for this Browns team. And I think on all three issues, it's problematic.
Yeah, the Browns have a massive Deshaun Watson problem. It's a massive Deshaun Watson problem. Because not only are you talking about what Mark's talked about with the financials and now the injuries, and I mean, let's be honest, we knew the Browns season was in deep, deep trouble the second they lost Nick Chubb. The second they lost Nick Chubb, you looked at that team and went, "Oh, I don't know what this team is anymore." Because that was what they did. They played amazing defense and ran the ball effectively. They would get 3 to 4 yards of play and they could get those third down and twos and third down and threes and run their way to the end zone. And there you go. You're winning 16-10 or 21-17 or something like that. But as far as the quarterback, Deshaun Watson, it's a massive issue because, I mean, I think we can all say it. It's the worst trade in NFL history by far at this point, unless he somehow turns it around and wins them a Super Bowl. But you take this guy who had a lot of issues beforehand. You knew the problems that were going on with him. You still took the risk. You traded away the guy who, is struggling right now in Tampa, but the guy who got you your first playoff win in what, like 10, 12 years? And you trade him away. You trade like first round picks away. So you're trading away your future for this guy who you think is going to turn it around. And he hasn't even played in a year and a half. What did you think was going to happen, Cleveland? And the reason they have a massive issue is because there ain't no trading this. There ain't no getting out of this contract. You're in it. You're paying the $238 million, and you ain't getting out of this at all. So you got to make it work somehow. And I don't see it unless Deshaun Watson makes a miraculous turnaround. They ain't turning this around.
Imagine the dead cap if they had to cut him.
Oh my God.
You can't imagine that. It would be insurmountable.
Catastrophic.
I mean, like, I'll put a little context into this. In one of our group chats, knowing of my group chats, we talk about, is there a world where you could take the contract of Deshaun Watson and move that for the contract of Russell Wilson? And, could something like that ever work? I don't know if that'll ever work. I will say this flat out. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'll never be the smartest guy in the room. But that would seem like might be best for both sides here. But
So to just quickly say answer what you asked, Mike, the dead money. If they were to say cut Deshaun Watson next year, the dead money would be $200 million.
Forget it. Your organization is done.
so
And then it goes
essentially
down
it's his
to
entire contract.
Yeah, the lowest this gets is the year 2026, and it would still be 72 million.
Forget it. Dan, what do you see here?
I mean, it is a massive problem in Cleveland in terms of Deshaun Watson, because if you really think about it this way, it's obviously the baggage that came with Deshaun, but then it's also the fact that he has not lived up to what he once was. And that's why they traded for him. They traded for Deshaun Watson and then ultimately gave him a contract because of what he once was in Houston. And he was a good player. He was a great player in Houston. So that's why they got him. They knew, okay, we'll accept the baggage, but he's a good quarterback. And he has not shown it. He has not shown that. He hasn't played like a top-tier quarterback. So then you combine, well, we accept the baggage. Now we have to accept the bad play. It's a very, very difficult issue. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they just continue not riding with him just because. If they want to just accept for what it is, say, you know what? He's the backup. He may not like it, but he's the backup. We'll pay him whatever. He'll sit on the sidelines. I don't think Deshaun will care. I'm going to be real with you. I don't think he would care. He's still getting his money. But yeah, it's a massive problem that they have to have. And, you know, you're talking about, you know, just flat out releasing him. You know, as much dead money as it is, it's kind of not out of the window. It's sort of something that they have to really think about.
To take on what Dan just said, Mike, and I'll make it very fast.
No, go ahead.
Dan made a very, very good point. It's like they can do one or the other. They can release him and grill it up and eat what they have to eat, but then forfeit themselves as a franchise. Or they have to also suck it up and say, look, we're going to get this rookie quarterback. He's starting. We're going to pay you the rest of your contract to be the backup. I mean, that is the only other solution that would work for Cleveland so they don't get hit on dead money. But it's a prohibitive for them to go out and sign anybody because there's no money left.
Think about paying a backup quarterback $238 million.
Exactly.
That's essentially what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put things into more perspective. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
No.
The Browns are worth almost about $4.5 billion, roughly. Operating income's only 104 mil. Revenue probably like 500-ish. Like, this is as much as they can probably take the dead away if they really wanted to. They were like, okay, this ain't working. It's still detrimental to the franchise. They're going to be set back for a long time. Long time.
But that's the decision you make when you make that trade.
Yeah.
Make that you know the PR backlash that is going to occur because of what was going on in his life. Mm-hmm. And you're going to personally guarantee him the $238 million, whatever it is. And then it's one of two things. It's either we're going to be really good and hopefully we'll hoist the Lombardi, or we are where we're at now with this and it's just not pretty. And we are in a situation where we're having this conversation where he's getting hurt. He hasn't been good since he got there. Because I'll be the first one to say, I thought he was going to have a good year.
I did too.
Based on the fact of the suspension wasn't looming over his head. He was going to get a full training camp, full preseason, and he was going to come right in and play. He's been awful. He has been awful. Now, could part of that be Nick Chubb getting hurt? Sure. But let's not make excuses. Amari Cooper's still really good. David Njoku's still really good. I happen to like Elijah Moore. I'd like to see a little bit more. And then, Mark, you brought it up. They had the ability to bring in a guy who already knew the damn offense in Kareem Hunt. So there are no, and like you said also, Mark, this is a top defense. Myles Garrett.
You're wasting him.
Myles, listen, we could have a debate one day on who's better right now between Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. And here's the answer. Nobody's wrong.
I mean,
two of the most dominant.
Yeah, exactly. Neither of these two guys get enough credit for what they do. I mean, they are two of the best pass rushers in the league right now, and it's not even close. I mean, you want a clip of what Myles Garrett can do? Just show the clip of him blocking the field goal.
Yeah, you want to show him Myles Garrett is so good. He hits guys with helmets.
and is allowed back to play. And is allowed back to play.
This might be controversial to say because you probably don't want to do this, but if it comes to next year, this is coming off season. Let's just say, as of right now, they're 3-4. Let's just say let's just go that the rest of the season. So they end up what? Like 7-8, 7-10,
yeah,
8-9.
So they missed the playoffs.
They missed the playoffs.
Okay.
Is Myles Garrett available to try to recoup what you lost from Deshaun Watson?
That's a very good point. And when you look at Myles Garrett, and then Dan, I'm going right to you after this. He reminds me of a player, and no, I'm not going to say Reggie White or someone on Dallas. He reminds me of Bruce Smith of Buffalo Bills. The way he can use that swim move and get leverage and get around. That's who he reminds me of. And that's why I think he is so valuable to that defense. Dan.
You know, I just want to make it very clear. I really think Garrett would be willing to just up and leave, or even have the threat to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand he can threaten the Browns to do that. Like, he has enough power within that organization to make them fear a little bit.
And I bet you if the Browns said in the offseason, Myles Garrett is available, every team's calling.
Yeah.
Every single team is going to call and be like, all right, what do you want for him? Because he's that good of a player. He can turn any defense around. I'll just throw a couple just quick teams out there. I guarantee you the Jaguars are calling. I guarantee you the Packers are calling. Guarantee you the Dolphins are calling. Why wouldn't
team
you?
in football's calling.
Yeah, like I said, like there are specific teams that probably could do it more than others, but every team is going to call up the Browns and be like, all right, what do you want from Myles Garrett?
Sorry, no, I'm going to interject. Why would Dallas bring him on? You're saying every team. I mean, look, I know the Dallas defensive line.
I said every team would at least make the call.
Yeah, every team would at least make the call.
Oh, okay.
I apologize. What's the price tag? Now, according to Spotrac.com, Myles Garrett has an out in his contract, not after this season, it looks like. But it would cost the Browns $36 million in dead cap. So
I do think if the Browns do not make the playoffs somehow, or if the Browns do not make the playoffs, he is a name that we all have to watch in the offseason.
Now, I absolutely agree there.
I want to circle back because we were talking Watson for a bit. So I want to circle back here, and this is because it got my mind racing on who would be the team if they said we're done, we don't want it. I'm trying to think of the team that would be, I don't want to say dumb enough, but the team who would do it, and it just hit me. The Bears. The Bears would be the team.
Oh my God.
And then hear me out, because they would have 2 of the top 3 picks anyway. The number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft changes entirely. It would be Marvin Harrison. And that would lead to, Mark, something about the mock draft we've discussed.
Yeah.
That would lead to a Caleb Williams little bit of a slippage.
And which we are seeing as well already.
Well, that's also got to do with him asking for a stake of ownership, which
Well, that too.
Oh, that.
Play into it.
God, if you trade a first round pick for Deshaun Watson, you are an idiot.
Oh, I don't think they'd trade a first round pick for him. If you take on the money, it would be
take on the money, you get a 6.
I think Cleveland has to offer a first round pick just to get rid of him.
It'd be, argument's sake, it's Chicago. It'd probably be Fields, and maybe it's a conditional 2025 pick based on stuff Watson could do.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're welcome, Chicago.
You're welcome to Chicago masseuses, is what you really should say.
I hope he's a fan of deep dish pizza.
God.
Mark's face when I said deep dish pizza.
New York, baby.
I'm not arguing with you. All right. Going to New York. Dan touched on this before, so we'll start with Dan. Daniel Jones out again. Tyrod Taylor gets the start for the Giants over the Jets. So, Dan, should the Giants just shut Daniel Jones down and pay him in nickels instead of dimes?
Well, I'm just saying in general, forget the injury. Daniel Jones is just trash. He's terrible. You have to start considering just outright getting rid of him because he's that terrible. I've watched enough of Daniel Jones in the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, to know he ain't it. And I know Dable and company ran into an easy schedule last year. And I know that they cruised to the playoffs. They found the right team that was struggling and won a playoff game. And the hype was there, but it was overrated hype. The Giants are not as good as you think they are. But what I've seen out of Tyrod Taylor just in these last 2 games is enough for me to say that he moves the offense a whole lot better. And that's just it. The offense looks more competent. The receiving game all of a sudden just opened up a little bit. You know, we were complaining about the protection of the quarterback with Daniel Jones, and maybe that's part of the reason why he's struggling. Okay, well, the offense hasn't changed much, but they're protecting way better for Tyrod Taylor. Darren Waller all of a sudden looks like a top-tier receiver. Where was that with Daniel Jones? Non-existent. Running game is a whole lot better. Saquon Barkley is seeing the field better. Where was that with Daniel Jones? Nowhere.
I mean, Saquon Barkley just seeing the field.
It's not a coincidence that when you have a competent quarterback, that the Giants are a whole lot better. And again, I'm not saying that they're a good team in general. I'm just saying they look a whole lot better. It's time to end this experiment. It's over. We've seen enough. Daniel Jones got to be out. It's over. And again, I feel horrible for Jones. He seems like a very nice guy. He's just not a good quarterback. And not worthy of that contract that he got.
You know, looking at a note, just to build on what Dan just said, the Giants just released a statement about a few minutes ago that Daniel Jones, besides being out for today, will be ready to play on week 10. So, building on what Mike had to say, Dan and Noah, the Giants are in a problem because they picked the wrong guy to give this contract to, as Mike alluded to in the beginning. And now they're kind of stuck with him because you have to look at him in the same situation as Dallas looks at Dak and Cleveland looks at with Deshaun, Arizona, and Kyler. Is that if they were to say, screw it, you're going, it's the dead money. It's the problem. And I'm sorry, whether you're Jerry Jones and you're worth $8 billion, or you're the Mara and act like you only have $20 in your bank account, it's not in your best interest to shelve these guys. You have to keep your deal.
But when do you stop making it work?
See, that's another good question. It's
That's what you're basically proposing. You just gotta find a way to make it work. Okay, well, they've tried that.
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. Right now, the offense has looked a whole lot better since Tyrod has stepped in.
3 trillion times better.
And Mike made the perfect call. Do you made the perfect question? I'm sorry. Do you shelve him for the rest of the season?
But you shelve him not because of the injury. You shelve him because he's a bad quarterback.
He's trash. You shelve him because he's trash.
But you could also use the injury as the reason.
Exactly.
You can't just say
protocol reasons.
You're not going to sit there and say he sucks. We're benching him for the year when you just paid him. Now
That's
to go
what you
back.
do.
Hold on. To go back on that, there's an out in his contract after next year, according to Spotrac.
Okay,
so it'd be a
he
2-year contract if they were to get out of it after next season.
So let's say Tyrod has another great game again against one of the best defenses in football. Let's say he has a good game. Maybe you're right, Mike. They say, you know what, that shoulder is not healed well enough. You're done. We're going to rest you and we'll deal it. And we're going to let Tyrod run this. And during the time, you start looking for possibilities who you think you can unload him to next year. And if that means you have to pay a little bit for him to play somewhere else, the Yankees did that for a long time and it worked. So
we went into last offseason and I felt like I heard every single person talk about how Daniel Jones should get paid. You should at least do a bridge deal to start him for a couple of years and let's see what he has. And I just sat here and I just thought, have I lost my mind? Am I crazy? Because everyone was like, oh my God, this dude had a career year. What career year? He just didn't throw as many picks. He threw 15 touchdowns. That is less than a touchdown a game. Meanwhile, you got Justin Fields throwing 2 a game at least. You've got Badgett in Chicago throwing 2 a game at this rate. And then they gave him it. And
one game against the Raiders. Let's slow down on Badgett.
But still, it's the Bears, so 2 touchdowns means a lot.
I
couldn't believe how people were. I couldn't believe how people were defending this contract and saying he deserves it. I'm like, have I lost my mind? He sucks. And they've learned that the hard way. Because everyone's saying a career year. He had a career year. No, he didn't have a career year. He just cleaned up the mistakes. That ain't a career year. That is simply just not sucking.
And it's also, and again, and it's fine if you want to say he had a better year. It's also fine to say that he didn't make the zillion mistakes that he made in years 1, 2, 3. And that's fine. You can say all that and it will all be true. But to flat out say he's become all of a sudden one of the best quarterbacks in the league, it's all BS.
Mm-hmm. And they should just shut him down. I agree with both of you. They should just shut him down for the whole year because Tyrod Taylor's running this way better, and you're probably splitting this contract up and sending him to
Timbuktu.
I don't know where you're sending him. Probably to be a backup somewhere.
Well, I look at it like this from 2 perspectives. This is why the 5th-year option is such a intriguing thing, because it's whatever it was, $20 million, and people could say, well, he wasn't worth the $20 million, which is fine. And you could also say with that Joe Shane, Brian Dable, they didn't draft him, so they don't have any connection to him. But by declining the 5th-year option and him having the year he had last year, they put themselves in this corner unintentionally, of course, but they felt, okay, we have to, because based on A, what's out there, and B, we would hope he would capitalize on his lack of turnovers of last year and so on and so forth. I mean, it's come back to bite them a bit for sure. But no, you brought up maybe there's a team out there who would take him to be a backup. That's fine, kind of like a Mitch Trubisky situation. But then the Giants are back at who's the next guy. And we just got done talking about potential teams who could make a move for a quarterback. And I go, well, you know who traded up with the Giants to draft their current quarterback? And I can't believe I'm saying them again. If the Bears were to either A, have the number 1 pick and want to take Caleb Williams, or B, they get whoever they want because they don't want Justin Fields. Would Justin Fields be a guy the Giants are interested in? Or are the Giants going to be in a position to where they're going to pick in the top 5 and maybe the Drake May comes to them? Maybe if they're really high on Michael Penix, who should be the front runner for the Heisman Trophy.
Great.
He a guy who they like. I mean, that's the question they're going to have to pay themselves.
But, I mean, trying to find someone to unload that contract. And this should be a lesson to all of these GMs and everything. Do not make sure that if you're paying the quarterback, make sure he's the guy. Because, we could sit here and talk about all of these bad quarterback contracts, but like, obviously the Mahomes contract was worth it. The Burrow contract was worth it. To a certain extent, the Herbert contract is worth it, but
they've got other questions they have to answer.
They've got so many other questions that they have to answer. But like, very few quarterbacks are worth this kind of money. They are. Heck, Mark and I can agree that we're even having this conversation with Dak.
Yes,
like, is
absolutely.
He worth this money? It's just like, is he worth it? Like,
how many times have Adam and I brought up the Kyler contract?
Yeah.
And then we were also, as we just said, Dan and I have been talking about this since the season started. The one contract we go back to is the Daniel Jones contract. It's how do you do that and give it to Daniel Jones and say blank you to Saquon Barkley?
And meanwhile, you've got Seattle, who got away with highway robbery, paying Geno Smith 3 years, $60 million.
Exactly.
They're paying their starting franchise quarterback, who is, is he a top 5 guy? No, but you could argue that Geno Smith might be playing at a top 10 quarterback level.
I agree with you.
And they're paying him $20 million.
What do you say? How about Jared Goff?
And Goff, yeah.
Look, when left the Jets, I said I understood business is business. I said it was the biggest mistake because that kid had talent, and he still does.
Oh yeah, and the Todd Bowles, Mike McCagnon, both eat it. They know it too.
Yeah,
"Eat It" is also a great Weird Al song. So, my display of wanting Weird Al to perform the Super Bowl continues. Raj, if you're listening.
But I just want to make one last thing because
go for it.
It's so amazing how you've got 2 teams that did the exact same thing. They had 2 guys who were struggling these last few years, and they both were coming off of better years. But I think it was obvious that when you looked at how Geno Smith played versus how Daniel Jones played, it's like I said, Daniel Jones just simply didn't suck. He just cleaned up the interceptions and the turnovers. Geno Smith was actually playing like good football. He was throwing touchdowns. He was throwing dimes to people. So, of course, that contract made so much sense. And again, when you're paying that guy, he's going to be your franchise quarterback for the next 3 years, and you're paying him $20 million a year compared to what these other teams are, it makes that Daniel Jones contract look so much worse in comparison.
Yeah, and you can go through a couple of others, like, whether it's guys on rookie deals or whatever it is. It's just, I mean, no offense, I don't mind tooting the guys. Brock Purdy was last pick of the draft.
Yeah.
And he's pretty much better than Daniel Jones.
And Lamar Jackson was the last pick of the first round of the draft and kind of fell right in the Ravens' lap. You can't ask for stuff like that.
Yeah, I look at Daniel Jones, and there's two teams I look at and I go, I wonder if he'd be a little bit better. I wonder if he'd be better in Tennessee, just based on what they have, or is Daniel Jones even better than what the heck is Desmond Ridder? Like those are, I think, if Atlanta's going to go searching for a quarterback based on whatever happens the rest of the year, would Daniel Jones interest them based on what Arthur Smith likes to do? Sorry, Daniel Jones.
No.
There's like 4 Joneses ahead of you. We'd rather see Tommy Lee Jones play quarterback, Mr. Jones from the Counting Crows song,
Indiana Jones,
Spike Jones.
I would almost argue that if the Deshaun Watson contract wasn't fully guaranteed, I feel like you could make the argument that the Daniel Jones contract is in a worse position than the Deshaun Watson deal.
Absolutely.
It's really only the fully guaranteed part of the Watson contract.
You could go through a top 5 list, and Daniel Jones might be 4 or 5 because I'm going to put the Watson one. I'll put Russell Wilson there.
Yeah.
I'm going to put Kyler Murray in this conversation. And then you're going to get into Daniel Jones. And
while I agree with you, Mike, just really quick, I agree with you,
sure.
Murray, but the reason I would have Murray 5th is because at least from
I'm just going any order, but
we've at least with Kyler Murray, we've seen the flashes of like this is what he could be.
No, that's fair. I'm just going off of a grouping as a whole. I'm not
right
ordering them up, but those are probably the 4 worst. I don't know what the 5th one would be. I don't know. But anyway, Daniel Jones not playing again today. There's reports he might be back for the Raider game next week, if not the following week. Oh, boy. It's a giant mess.
It is.
All right. So what happens on Sundays a lot while I'm watching games is I get text messages throughout the day. Most of them come from someone in this room. Or the Zoom room, whatever you consent. Mark, you texted me on Browns Colts last week.
Oh my God.
So
what an atrocity of reffing in that game. I mean, look, there have been this season compared to the last, let's say 5 or 6.
Awful.
This has been the season of bad calls. And what is it going to come down to? I mean, you can't say, well, now we're going to have replay challenges on every call because then NFL football games are going to run 4 or 5 hours apiece and nobody's going to give a crap anymore.
Mark, I'm going to stop you for a second.
Okay. Sorry.
Because that's going to lead into the question of,
okay, go ahead.
Should the NFL expand replay?
Replay needs to be expanded on 1 penalty, 2 penalties only. 1, pass interference. And I propose the fact that pass interference, if it's called, is only a 15-yard penalty. None of these, it was 65 yards in the air and now you're at the 1. No, 15 yards, first down, end it. 2, they have to reevaluate roughing the passer. Look, obviously the quarterback is one of your most vulnerable people on the field, and taking a hit blindsided or a hit to a head is a very, very, very big problem. As we can see what happened to Brock Purdy when they tried to push, and it really didn't push his tush, it bent his head. But he has also been cleared for today, so he will play. But that being said, those are the only two penalties that need to be challenged and recalled because they're thrown the most out of any game of those two calls. And it really can change the pace of the game or change the game from a win to a lose.
Yeah, I mean that Colts Browns game was an atrocity because they literally handed the Browns the victory. The Colts should have easily won that game, and the refs handed the Browns the win. That pass interference call on the second to last play of the game is one of the weakest I've ever seen. That ball was nowhere near catchable. That ball ain't being caught by anybody. I mean, the announcers put it perfectly. Like, even Calvin Johnson ain't getting that ball. And you're throwing that flag? Come on. And I hate to bring this up again, but Mike heard this rant on Wishbone. The most unforgivable thing that I've seen this year from the refs, and I don't know if Mark and Dan, you guys agree, is that Chiefs call where the guy took off his helmet and they just told him to put it back on.
Back on.
Where is that automatic flag? Every other situation that has an automatic flag for 15 yards. Nope, not for the Chiefs.
Right.
Excuse me? That was the worst I've ever seen.
I believe both of those refs were let go after the game. I mean, after that being seen.
Just to put it this way, and I don't mean to do this, but like if ESPN is even pointing it out, if First Take's pointing it out, then it's bad. That's when you know it's really, really bad. As far as reviewing, I don't know. Because we tried it once, and how often did the refs reverse their call? Because they didn't want to make themselves look stupid. They were just like, nope, it stands. Call stands. We're not changing it.
Whatever was said on the field was right because they did not want to.
They don't want to
hurt their brothers in stripes.
Exactly. So I don't see what good it does. The roughing the passer, Mike, you and I have talked about it. Put flags on them. Just end this. Just put flags on them and let's be done with this. Because I'm sick and tired of a guy pushing the quarterback. The guy flops, roughing the passer. Like, what? What is
this? And then
this?
when you really want it called, they don't throw the flag.
Yeah, when the guy nails him 5 seconds after he throws the ball, nope, he's fine. It's like, what are we doing here? But as far as that concerned, I mean, just really quick, the Dolphins-Eagles game was an atrocity. You got.
Don't push me, Noah. Don't push me here.
I'm not. I don't mean to push you, Mike, but I have to. I cannot stand when you call 10 penalties on the Dolphins and you call nothing on the Eagles. Come on.
Well, especially when there is a blatant face mask that could change the game. There's a missed pass interference that could change the game. A roughing the passer penalty, Noah, that you brought up before, that leads to a Philly touchdown.
Yeah.
Then where the 2 plays later is a Dallas got a touchdown after Jalen Hurts gets pushed. Here's the problem, and I think I have some sort of solution. No, they can't make these penalties reviewable based on the fact of what Noah said. When pass interference was reviewable, it stunk. They didn't know what they were doing. So here's the deal. I am tired of the Gene Sterators, the Dean Blandinos, and the Terry McCaulleys telling me what should and shouldn't be called based on what they have. No. So here's what I'm going to do. So CBS, Fox, NBC, ESPN, ABC, WLLN, whatever it is. Here's what we're going to do, NFL. Instead of these guys explaining everything to us, explain it to the guys working the game.
Mm-hmm.
Have them be the review center, and then have them explain it to us if they're going to continue working for the networks. They are the guys in charge of the officials.
Because
they are the ones who help us understand, help them understand.
And what's your standpoint? I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to go off that point, Mike. Nothing makes me more mad when the refs make a call, and then, like you said, Gene Steratore goes on air and goes, "Man, I don't agree with this call. This is completely the wrong call. That's not pass interference." It's like, why are we hearing this?
Yeah. That's the Mark, you were going to say something.
No, I was saying I wanted to hear what Dan had to say on it.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dan.
I mean, you know, I'm tired of proposing replays for penalties. How about we hold the refs accountable and have them come to a press conference after a game where they meet with the media and they answer to every call that they made or missed call that they didn't make?
Put them right in the front light. Yes.
And here's the other part. Make them full time. Pay them like it's a full time gig, because that way they're going to care more.
Yeah.
You know,
but
or give an incentive on a good game called.
Right.
But I'm tired of that argument too, because if they're working a game, they should care.
No, Dan, I don't disagree
you're not
with
wrong.
you. The NFL's a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Oh, yeah. Look, I agree that these refs should be full time, but if you're an official, you still should have to care about these games.
Oh, I'm not arguing. By the way, here's the other point of view here's the other point of view I'm going to bring up, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. What's every commercial of an NFL game? FanDuel, DraftKings.
Not a sponsor.
Nothing there is sponsored. How do we know the refs aren't gambling? We were able to find out pretty quickly when the NFL gets players. We don't know about the refs.
That's going to be something we're going to be hearing a lot more about as the NFL change that policy.
Yeah, and look, the bottom line is this. The refs have to start answering, in my opinion, answering for the calls that they make. And we have to hold them accountable. If it's the media that has to hold them accountable, do it. Because they never have to answer for any missed calls or any bad calls that they make.
The only bad call that has ever been questioned, maybe in the history of the NFL, was the pass interference on the Saints against
that was like the most egregious non-call we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where even just really quick, even non-fans, like my mother watched it and goes, "How is that not a flag? Like that is clearly a pass interference." Like if my mother could see it.
Much love
Stevie
to Mama
Wonder can see it. Anybody can see it.
Right.
I mean, anybody could see that was a flag, and it was I could not imagine being a Saints fan in that moment. I still would be salty about that.
I mean, yeah.
Yep, they're all feeling like Bartman. Sorry, I knew that was going to make
20 years later.
Have a little comedy once in a while.
20 years later, we're still at Bartman. Moises Alou is sitting there listening. You son of a gun. All right. Mark alluded to this earlier. Trade deadline is Tuesday. One of the things that came out yesterday from Adam Schefter, the Titans have informed Derrick Henry he's not going anywhere. He's going to wear a Houston Oilers jersey today, not to be confused with the Edmonton Oilers, who will also be playing outside today.
Yes, but one plays on ice, the other one plays on turf.
Well, and not to go off of a soliloquy here.
Yeah, we normally
be a Canadian outdoor game today. Was my
fair enough. There we go.
Was my point.
Little levity.
Yeah. So, Derrick Henry, Mark, is going to stay a Titan.
Yeah. The trade deadline, as Mike just said, and we've been alluding to that we're getting to, it's Tuesday. And one of the biggest names was Derrick Henry going to go somewhere, considering his contract is up. And I don't think the Titans, after calls they put out, ever got anywhere near to what they were going to want for him. So their plan for him now is to finish out the season. And obviously they have a choice. They can hit him with a franchise tag, but that franchise tag is going to be astronomical. And it's not going to be possibly in their best interest to sign him long term. So I think he will be one of the top free agents after the season. Noah?
This makes zero sense. You're not in the race. You're worse than the Texans. Just put that out there. Just think of that statement. You're worse than the Houston Texans. And that's not a knock on the Texans. They've been playing well, but you are not in this division right now. You are arguably the worst team in this division. Why? Is Derrick Henry part of your future? Shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. He's a 31-year-old running back or a 30-year-old running back. He's still good, but he ain't going to be part of your future. He ain't going to be there. He ain't going to be good after 4 years when you have a rebuild done. He's not. Why not get a first-round pick for him? Because you know you could. I know there's a team out there that would give the Titans a first-round pick. You're telling me right now that the Chiefs call, they wouldn't offer a first-round pick? The Bills, Cowboys. There are a lot of teams right now that would be willing to give up a first-round pick to get a guy like Derrick Henry on their team. Cleveland? You know?
See, if you building on what Noah said here, if there was any time for any team, and I'm talking 31 different teams here, whether you're going to get 1 year or you're going to get him on an extension, he's going to make your team better for the rest of the season, no matter what. So, obviously there are teams, if they trade for him, they want him to sign that extension so they don't lose him. But I don't the Titans reportedly wanted a first, a second, and then a fourth and a fifth in the next year. They weren't going to get it.
You see, that's bad business. Because when you put a price tag that is too high, whether it's on a player or whether it's a player wanting money that you're not going to command, it's bad business because nobody's going to start negotiating with you on that price.
Right. Agreed. Dan, I know you and I talked about this. When A.J. Brown got traded to the Eagles last year for pennies, look at what that trade did. It's just got to show you the mindset that's in Tennessee.
But it also, you can tell who they play favorites to and who they don't. And you can also feel like who they're more attached to. And I feel like, I know I probably just been redundant there, but my point is that they pick and choose their attachments. And it's silly. It's the silliest thing in the world because it's very obvious that Tennessee is not in a good spot with their football team. They don't look like a playoff team for sure. And it's just funny how they still want to keep Derrick Henry. They're attached to Derrick Henry so much. But for what reason? Like what's that one thing that is not driving you to make this trade? And for the future of your franchise. And possibility for Henry to go somewhere else and win elsewhere, to better his career numbers. It's a win-win situation that I think Tennessee is, missing out here. And all for what? Another missed playoff berth. Even if they make the playoffs, is it going to be another first-round exit because the quarterback can't get out of his head?
The worst place to be in any sport is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You either want to be all in, you want to be all out. You don't want to be in the middle.
A better statement never said right there.
Like Jimmy Eat World said, it takes some time living in the middle. But no, you brought up a point, and then Mark, you brought up a point. Noah's point was, I don't know what the Titans are. You're in last place in a division that features the Houston Texans, who've outperformed their expectations. The Indianapolis Colts found their quarterback. The Jacksonville Jaguars found their quarterback. The Houston Texans have found their quarterback. We don't know who the quarterback in Tennessee is going to be. It's not going to be Ryan Tannehill. Is it going to be Will Levis or Malik Willis? We don't know. We'll figure that out as we come down the stretch. But that's the sign of a rebuild or a retool or whatever you want to call it. Derrick Henry's not a part of that. He's going to be 30 years old in January. I just looked up his birthday. It's not that I know it for a fact. So you don't want to be in the middle. Then, Mark, your point was think of the A.J. Brown trade. A.J. Brown was traded for a first-round pick and then signed for 5 years and $100 million with the Philadelphia Eagles. You couldn't pay A.J. Brown $20 million a year.
And he's a top 5 receiver in the league.
He's top 5 receiver in the game. And then on top of that, the guy you draft is Treylon Burks, whose comp during the draft was A.J. Brown. That doesn't make sense when you had the original in the damn building.
And you trade a 25-year-old like rising receiver and not your 31-year-old running back. Like,
let's get it better. Let's get better. Then in the offseason, this past offseason, you traded A.J. Brown. Treylon Burks didn't have a great rookie year, but I still have Derrick Henry. I got a grand old idea. I'm going to sign DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year contract. Why on God's green earth are you signing DeAndre Hopkins?
Mike brought up a great point. The one thing Tennessee has is a plethora of quarterbacks. You got Malik Willis and Will Levis. In the background, you have to figure Ryan Tannehill is out after this year.
He's done after this year.
He's done. So it's going to go to one of the two of them. They don't need a quarterback. They have quarterbacks. You don't draft a rookie quarterback to compete with them. You've wasted your draft over the last few years trying to build up that position. If I'm the Titans, and whether it's it wouldn't be to a team like San Francisco or Dallas or the Giants, really, you have to find a team that needs the push to get them over the top. And there's only one team that I see that could have made that move, and that was the Miami Dolphins after the poor showing with Mostert, Jeff Wilson, and the loss of Don Amici.
Could I go one up on you?
You may.
How about the Baltimore Ravens?
I didn't want to go there because that's just too sickening to think about.
I mean, J.K. Dobbins, he's always J.K. I'm hurt. Gus Edwards isn't an answer.
Unless he's got the bus going.
Justice Hill hasn't seen justice in a long time and hasn't been relevant since the Justice League. So the backfield of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry coming out of defense, I'm sorry, I know it's Halloween, but there is not many things more spooky than that.
No.
So, all right. We said trade deadline. We've also got to go to Mark's favorite place in the world, mainly because it's snowing there. Denver, Colorado.
Oh, what a week to have the first snow game of the year. For every fantasy guy out there, I am sorry if you have Mahomes, if you have Kelsey, if you ended up with Russell Wilson, I feel sorry for you at that. And this game is not going to be, I don't see it being a very offensive scoring game. I see it to be the old Rob Schneider Fumblerooski, Fumbleia. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting no more than a 9-6 game. And at the end, Patrick Mahomes fumbles the ball. And because Brady screwed everybody for the tuck rule, he doesn't get the call this time and the game ends.
Well, yeah, it's so weird how the Chiefs just faced the Broncos. It feels like they just faced them like last week.
Right.
And now they face them again. But to Mark's point, I don't see this being a very high scoring game because of snow, because of all that. And because you can call me a hater all you want, but I have not been impressed with the Chiefs this year.
Neither have I.
I know they're
I really thought
6-1.
that statement was going to end with "I haven't been impressed with the Broncos." And I was going to go, "No, really?"
No, I mean, look, the Chiefs are 6-1. I get it, but I have not been impressed with the Chiefs this year. They have barely squeaked by teams that they shouldn't have squeaked by. I mean, let's be honest. We talked about the Colts. We talked about the Browns getting handed the victory over the Colts. The Chiefs got handed the victory over the Jets.
Yeah.
We all can be honest about that.
Referees help them all the time, by the way.
All the time. I just talked about
all
it.
the time.
The guy taking off his helmet. Where's the 15-yard penalty? Not on the Chiefs.
Where's
But
the trillion holding penalties that
trillion holding penalties? And even when they have all of that, they have not looked good. I brought this up the last time they played the Broncos, which was 2 weeks ago, which is crazy to think about. But
good job, NFL schedule makers.
This is what I brought to this on the Wishbone Shotgun, and I thought this was such a big thing to bring up. The Denver Broncos gave away the ball 3 times in that game to the Kansas City Chiefs. They had 1 fumble and they had 2 interceptions thrown by Russell Wilson. You, as the Kansas City Chiefs, you beat them by 11 when they gave you 3 turnovers. What? And you were 4 of 13 on 3rd down? What is this Chiefs team? It is Travis Kelce and Mahomes. That's it.
And a decent defense.
Which just lost Nick Bolton.
And Taylor Swift. Don't forget Tay-Tay.
Listen, I love Nick Bolton, so that's a huge loss.
It's just, they are. Look, they're 6-1. I get it. And Nick Wright can go on all the rants he wants about how they're the best team ever, but they are not good, in my opinion. They are barely squeaking by people that they shouldn't be. And I'm interested to see because here's their schedule coming up. Here's KC's schedule coming up. They play Miami at home.
No.
Philly.
That's in Germany.
Or in Germany. Then they play Philly at home. Then they got Raiders and Packers, which whatever. Then they got the Bills at home. They go to New England. Then they've got the Raiders at home, the Bengals at home. I can just see them against these big time teams.
Here's the one thing, though. You're going to see them in January because the rest of the AFC West
sucks.
Straight up garbage.
Yeah.
And
the one team I thought would be good this year, the Chargers are like.
Yeah, the Chargers are a massive letdown. The Raiders, who knows what the Raiders are, and Denver stinks. But the reason why I brought up Denver was because of the trade deadline coming.
Yeah.
Wait, Mark, you had your hand up?
No, when you're done, finish your thing.
Oh, okay. Because Denver's got really 2 names. Pat Surtain, I don't think gets dealt. That's been the new report, unless they were blown away with an offer. But Judge Jerry Jeudy, who stars on Steve Smith's fantasy team. If you haven't seen that rant, that's why I said it. And Cortland Sutton. One of those 2 has to be moved.
Okay, to build on
Russell Wilson.
Right. We're not going to see Russell Wilson going anywhere as we talked about dead money and all that. To Noah's reaction to Mike, Patrick Surtain is a definite now possibility because the Broncos have reported they are taking offers, and there's only 2 teams that are taking offers from. Noah, you got it. Dallas is in on it, and Dan, so are the Jets. So that would give, just think, you would have a secondary in Dallas next year that has Surtain, Diggs, and Gilmore, and then you could possibly have in New York Gardner and Surtain. So
to your point,
yeah, go ahead.
Mark, to hear because Pat Surtain and Gilmore this year, because Gilmore's not with the team next year. He's a free agent. He's a free agent next year. But if you could get Surtain and Diggs for 1 year after this and get Surtain in now and go back to the way you were playing defense, I'm not kidding. Mark, maybe I'm crazy. I'm willing to give up our next two first-round picks.
I don't know if I give Noah right on the line with you. I don't know if I give up 2. I don't know if I give up two. I'll get to you one sec, Mike. I don't know if I'll give up two. I would definitely give up one easily, a first round pick next year. But I would also throw in a third. I would throw in a third. Yes. Does that kind of compromise how good Dallas does when it comes to the draft? Yes. But if you're going to eliminate the problem, if Stephon Gilmore wants to go somewhere else and you have a backup plan, and you don't have to spend $50 million to get a cornerback, not that Stephon Gilmore makes that. That takes a lot of ease off your salary cap problems. Mike.
All right, according to Diana Rossini of The Athletic,
Trust her. She's actually pretty good.
No offer has come close to motivating GM George Patton to make a move on Pat Surtain, close quote.
So that means the offers aren't strong enough. That's all.
Well, listen. So there's still 48 hours.
Exactly.
48 hours because it's 4:00 on
Tuesday.
Halloween, which, by the way, how do you make a deal at that time? You're usually taking your kids trick-or-treating.
It's a scary deal, man. It's a scary
deal.
It
really is.
But to go to your...
what do you think about the ideas of Patrick Surtain going to the Jets?
Bring back D. Milner.
Funny. He would be replaced. That's because you already have two great corners, and they have a good young set of corners as well. So I don't know if that would sort of help. I mean, I guess more depth is not always the worst, but where he fit, he's a great player.
No, we're going to say something before I rudely cut you off.
No, it's fine. No, it's good. But I wanted, like, obviously, Pat talked about Pat Surtain, which Mike said that they haven't received any good offers on. But as far as Judy and Sutton, I trade both of them. Like, I trade both of them. And as far as teams where you got to look, maybe teams who would want him, Judy, I don't think he's the number one receiver. I think we've all found out that he's not a number one. Jerry Jeudy I'm going to put Jeudy on the Jets, actually, because Garrett Wilson can be your number one. You slide Jeudy in as your number two. I don't think that's a bad option for the Jets, depending on what obviously the Denver wants. If it's like a third round pick for your number two receiver,
building on what Noah's saying, the Jets have not only whether it's player, but they also have picks available, and they're kind of one of the few teams that have been willing to trade and to get better. Unfortunately, they had that happen to Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of the season. You couldn't predict that. You bring in, let's go with either one of the two. Let's say it's whether it's Jeudy or Courtland Sutton. They become premier stars in the NFL next year if Aaron Rodgers is back to form. So that's what you're building on. Yeah, could the Jets pull off a miracle and somehow win the division? Of course, miracles are possible. Ain't going to happen. But next year, if you got Aaron Rodgers, you get him a great second receiver. You already have Garrett Wilson. Talking a whole new ball game, especially with Breece Hall.
I'd like to see one of them in Indy. Get Anthony Richardson a weapon. Noah knows this because I say it every freaking offseason on Wishbone. The Colts haven't had good receivers since the years of Marvin Harrison and Brandon Stokely. And Dallas Clark at tight end.
Oh, I was about to say, don't forget Clark.
Reggie Wayne.
Oh, come on.
Yeah,
Marshall
Falk. Good. But outside of Michael Pittman, it's not great. The Colts need a receiver. Shout out to the Patch. How about the Green Bay Packers? Romeo Doubs is okay. Christian Watson's okay. Jerry Jeudy could help that offense out too, or Courtland Sutton. Carolina's wanted a receiver since they drafted Bryce Young.
And God, They had somebody I thought, but
listen. By the way, they'd have the number 1 pick now. They could have taken Marvin Harrison next year, but no, they traded him for Bryce Young, Frank Reich. What the heck, man?
And they had this guy. I mean, I think DJ Moore, but I guess he's nobody because they traded him like nothing
to the Bears.
Yeah, but
Dude,
he was
they
apparently
hate
nothing.
DJs. They don't like music like that. It's unreal.
I just don't. I mean, I don't mean to go off on a tangent like this, but if you want the dumbest sentence ever said in the entire history of the NFL as far as this year is concerned, just look at the Panthers GM saying, "I want a number 1 wide receiver." Just traded him. You just traded him.
It doesn't make sense.
And I guarantee you the Bears would have taken the deal without DJ Moore.
Who knows?
I heard that sentence and I just had to look at that for 5 minutes and be like, is this guy an absolute idiot? Like, what?
Was he on drugs? Let's hope. But anyway, trade deadline's Tuesday. We'll have a full recap, Wishbone, and probably on that next week's show as well. But on to some of the big games of the day.
Can the Jets find a suitor for Dalvin Cook, please? Because he sucks.
We'll take him in Dallas.
He basically said he wants out too because his role's not big enough.
Dallas. I mean, not that I don't have faith in Dowdle and Deuce Vaughn, but I wouldn't mind Cook for a little bit of a change of pace if he's willing to come to Dallas and take a backup role.
Baltimore. I'm going to say it again. Baltimore.
As Mike was saying, we're getting into the games of the day.
All right.
As I went on a tangent, sorry.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. You try to run a show and then these people.
It's the dementia. It's kicking in. Okay, I broke my.
It's the age, Mark. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the old ops guy is feeling old. Let's go.
7 years.
7 years ago. I was there when he said it. All right, I'm going to start it off while Mike's cracking up.
All right, no, I got this. I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Mark, were you there when the Jacksonville Jaguars and American icon Blake Bortles went into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers in the playoffs?
I was going nuts. Mind you, I was much younger than now, and I was able to jump up and cheer at that point.
Well, today we got the Jags with Trevor Lawrence taking on the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. In a matchup of two teams, one surprising, one not so much. And the surprise is, in my opinion, the Steelers are 4-2.
If somehow Mike Tomlin pulls a winning record out of this Steelers team, I'll never question him again. I'll be like, nope, I don't care. The Steelers could be a team of high school students. I'll be like, nope, they're going to have a winning record. Because how the heck is Mike Tomlin doing this?
It's 20 consecutive seasons, right?
There'll be 20 consecutive seasons with a winning record.
Correct. Okay.
Which is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. How is he pulling this out of Kenny Pickett and Najee Harris and who I thought his career was over, Jalen Warren,
and Pickett thought it was. Sorry, Noah.
I don't know. If he does it this year, he could get a team of high school students to a winning record in the NFL.
Yeah. Pickett named his offense line the fence. Yeah, they got a lot of broken panels because Pickett's seeing more of the ground than he is throwing the ball. So,
and yet they're 4-2.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this game, Mike pointed out the Steelers. They're 4-2. Jacksonville is not what they should be. Jacksonville should be so much better. And I'm going to go there. They should be tied like the Dolphins record right now. They gave up games because of poor play and clock management, yet again, hurt them last year as well. But when you have players like Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Calvin Ridley, and I'm just naming 3, there's a lot more aspect to that team. The defense, has its holes, and they're working on fixing it. But this team is not proven offensively what they can do yet. Dan.
I'm still looking at this game for the Jags. And I feel like the Jaguars should win this game easily. Betting wise, everyone's begging you to take Jacksonville, which is why the Steelers may have the upper hand there. But game wise, if you're not really a better, this should be fairly simple for the Jags. You have a good offense, good coaching. Just run with it. The Steelers they're not trash. They've been playing very well of late. So they're not trash. But they should have lost that game to LA. And to me, I feel like this should be an easy enough game for Jacksonville to take it. And I don't know. To me, it's just it's weird a little bit.
I look at both of these teams, and Mark, you're right on Jacksonville. I'm waiting for them to see more. They're another team that, like, maybe they get into the corner market to help them out defensively. Offensively, they have enough pieces. Like them a lot. I think we were ready to elevate them in the offseason, and we got to remember this is year 2 for Doug Peterson. It's not like he's been there 4 or 5 years.
You know what? You know what's crazy though is that we're sitting here talking about it, and you would think the way we're talking is the Jags would be
they suck.
They're terrible, but they're 5-2.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it though also has to do with the fact that the division's just not good.
I mean, they're winning the division by default,
right? And I think that's what hurts them. But to go into Pittsburgh, you said how are they doing it? Well, let's be real honest here. TJ Watt has entered the MVP conversation, and he's put them on his back.
It's always been MVP conversations.
Listen, he asked me, Kenny building a picket fence. I don't love. Najee, they don't run the ball effectively. They have one good receiver in George Pickens, and they got Mike Tomlin. And that's really what Pittsburgh is. And they got people waving towels.
I will say last week, I mean, if you look at that game, the only difference was Matthew Stafford threw one interception and the Pittsburgh Steelers never turned the ball over. That really was the difference maker of that game.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, if the Rams had a challenge or a timeout, they could have challenged that spot.
Because that spot was awful.
We would have seen something different. We don't know what would have happened.
Right.
So you had the Jags and the Steelers. Then you get a Super Bowl rematch. It ain't Drew Brees versus Peyton Manning. It's Derek Carr against Gardner Minshew. And who can out Gardner who when the Saints play the Colts?
Gardner. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead, Mark. You go first.
All right. Gardner, I'm going to be on another team. Minshew next year has definitely proven, not only from his time in Jacksonville, but his time now here in Indianapolis, he needs to be taken a little more seriously and be given another shot at a starting position. That being said, they're not winning this game, even if Jonathan Taylor has a good game. Derek Carr is the healthiest he's been since the beginning of the season. You got Michael Thomas and Chris Olave, who are stud route runners and got speed. You got Alvin Kamara, who reminds me so much of Marshall Faulk going back in the day, a way he can do it anywhere on the field. I don't see the Saints losing this game. I don't say they're going to win it by a blowout, but this game to me goes to the Saints, and Derek Carr has an amazing day of at least 3 touchdowns.
If the Saints lose this game, we need to have a Dennis Allen conversation.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely.
Alvin Kamara, like you said, Mark, one of the most underrated guys in the league. I will say, there's every once in a while, a certain somebody on FS1 does actually some good points. And he put up a comparison of Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey's stats. And in some spots, Alvin Kamara is better than Christian McCaffrey. And it's crazy that he does not get the love that McCaffrey does, only because I think McCaffrey went to the perfect system for him. But back to this game, back to Saints, the Saints game for today. I don't know what to think of this Saints team. Mike can attest to this. I had them going 16-1. Well, they're not doing that. I did not expect them to be this bad, though. I mean, I didn't expect them to go 16-1, but I thought they would be a solid 12-4, 12-5, 13-4 at the very least. And I thought, because I looked at their schedule, Mike, because I told you this on the podcast. I said, look at their schedule. It is an easy schedule. And yet they are blowing games that they should not be. And I said this last week on the Thursday Night Football game between the Saints and the Jaguars. I said, I don't know if this is all on Derek Carr, because there were guys missing routes, guys dropping passes. I mean, Derek Carr is getting so mad on the sidelines. He's like, where are you going? Like, he's yelling at Kamara, like, where are you going? I'm throwing the ball here, and you're nowhere near where you're supposed to be. I don't know what the problem is. Is it Derek Carr's not getting the plays right, or is it the rest of the team not getting the plays right? I don't know, but they got to figure it out quick, because this offense should be electric, and it is dead for the most part.
It's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie.
But, like, I mean, you can't help but think, man, what is going on when Derek Carr's throwing the ball perfectly down the sidelines to be caught, and the guy's not even near it? It's like, where was that going?
I also wonder about Derek Carr's shoulder. That's the other thing that I think concerns me. But
there's a lot of things that concern me about Derek Carr in general. Injury, obviously, you can't ignore it. You know, the injury did take a toll on him when he got hurt in week 3 and stuff. But then his play also hasn't been good either. Mm-hmm. I think both can be true. And while maybe the offense may not look the greatest right now, even though it should be a whole lot better, I think the Saints as a team right now just aren't good. I think the players that should be playing well are underachieving, like Derek Carr. Derek Carr is way underachieving for someone that's trying to have a prove-it season after he basically got ostracized out of Vegas. I think this is his time to prove it, and he's, right now he's basically proven the Raiders right, even though the Raiders aren't very good either. But yes, I feel like Derek Carr has not played up to his level expected to be. And then I can also say that the Saints aren't a very good team either, because defense gets off to pretty slow start at times, and it stays slow until they pick it up later in the games. And it's got to be frustrating. It's got to be very frustrating.
And listen, no, finish up, and then I'll.
I'm sorry, Dan.
I was just gonna say, like, I feel like with this matchup with the Colts, given how I know we're going to discuss the Colts in a second, given how they look under Minshew and how they've had some really close games of late, I feel like the Saints really have to start picking it up a little bit, and the urgency's now.
Mike, before you get started to go into a situation that you're going through right now, have the Saints fell asleep at the wheel a little bit?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I think, one, the defense gets so tired out because the offense is 3 and out, or 1 first down, then it's a punt, or they turn it over. So the defense gets tired out quickly. The other part of this, and I don't mean any disrespect towards this, the Saints receivers aren't great. Chris Olave is very good. Michael Thomas is good, but we don't even know if he could stay healthy for a full year. But then you're into a Rashid Shaheed, and then you get into Kamara, and Kamara's great. But when they were good, when this offense was great with Pete Carmichael and Drew Brees, it was Marcus Colston. It was Jimmy Graham. It was Reggie Bush, and they had all these other good, and Devery Henderson was the downfield guy. Only reason I know it, I am a fantasy every year, but that's beside the point. There's something that doesn't click for the Saints right now. I don't know what it is, but it's there. As for Indy, listen, you know what they're going to do? They're going to run the ball down your throat and set up the play action for Michael Pittman. So that's kind of a key matchup. Marshawn Lattimore against Michael Pittman. Because if Lattimore could shut down Pittman, someone else in Indy's passing game is going to have to step up. So, all right. We move on to a rivalry game in the NFC North featuring Noah's favorite quarterback in the world, American hero, primetime sensation, Kirk Cousins, and the Vikings as they go to Lambeau to play Jordan Love and the Packers.
Kirk Cousins is the most anomaly.
If you look at the screen right now, Noah and I had the exact same face.
He is the biggest anomaly. I don't get him. You suck on primetime for years, and then you play the Niners, who I thought was the best team in the NFL ever, coming out of their Week 5 game against the Cowboys, and you play the best game of your life. You talk about what the heck is Desmond Ridder? Who the heck is Kirk Cousins?
Future Hall of Fame.
We don't like that. We don't like that.
God, I don't get him. Why can't you just do this all the time, Kirk? I would give you your props, but I give you your props, and then you sucked again.
To build off, sorry, no. To build off.
Although I will say this.
I'm so happy.
I will say this. I do think the last Thursday night between the Niners, or Monday night between the Niners and the Vikings, I personally believe that was more of just a loss of the Niners because they just aren't playing like the last 2 weeks. They have not looked like the same team that they were the first 5 weeks. They just don't look the same. And I hate to say it, but Brock Purdy is getting a little bit exposed in terms of he is not the guy that can throw the ball downfield. He is a guy who needs all the playmakers around him to make him look good, which I think we've all agreed that that's what he is. People all out here saying like Brock Purdy's a legitimate quarterback. It's like you put him on any other team, he's not doing well. But as far as this game, Vikings Packers, I mean, I think we have to have the conversation, Mike, because we had this a couple weeks ago. We had the bottom 5 teams. We did top 5 teams.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Packers are moving into that bottom 5 conversation.
Can I take it a step further?
Yeah.
I'm out on Jordan Love. I'm out. I don't care. That's his first year starting. I have seen nothing that makes me say he's great. And maybe it's the fact that over 30 years of my life, I've only known the Packers to have 3 amazing quarterbacks when it comes to Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Matt Flynn. But he reminds me of none of them. And I'm just out on Jordan Love.
Just think of that.
Hey.
We're all around the same age, even that sort of thing. But even in most of our lifetimes, the Green Bay Packers have had 2 quarterbacks.
Whoa, why are we giving Matt Flynn slander? He threw 6 touchdowns in a game against the Lions.
Against the 0-16
16 Lions. Exactly.
But no, seriously though, like think about that. The Packers had 2 quarterbacks between 1994 or 93 and 2022.
Yeah. To build off Noah, there has been, when Noah's here, Noah just acted like me. I feel every word that Noah said. I'm not needing to repeat about Kirk Cousins. I'm not going to say the guy doesn't have talent. He does. He can throw the ball. But he can't do it in the playoffs. And Noah and I have come to learn that between Romo and Dak and all that. And we understand it. But Romo's time wasn't 20 years, and Dak's time is literally walking a tightrope right now. How are you legitimately saying you're paying somebody to have players say, screw it, I'm not playing with him, I'm going to another team? Stephon Diggs being the big name here. Could you imagine a 2 of Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson?
But
If
think
you
about
had a quarterback they liked,
think about they only got Jefferson because of the Diggs trade. That was the pick.
understood. But what I'm saying is Jefferson's leaving. Kirk Cousins is gone. Jefferson has already said he wants out. He doesn't want to stay if he doesn't have a chance. So he's on IR with a hamstring. Do not be surprised if that is an amazing trade by the Vikings today, because the Vikings, to me, are out of it. I'm sorry. Regarding the game itself,
they're right back.
Hold on. Regarding the game itself, the Packers, and I'm sorry to our president and leader and soul of the group, who's now probably slicing a salmon. Don't cut your hand off, Patch. Living the Packers, Noah pinpointed it. You can't take any away from Bart Starr. So I'm going to say they've had 3 quarterbacks. Noah. Bart Starr was a great quarterback.
No, he said in our lifetime, though.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
I mean, we know you're older, but man,
I wasn't that old. I did not see the Ice Bowl game.
You didn't see the Ice Bowl? Come on, Mark. I thought you did.
I didn't see the Ice Bowl. You kidding me? The old ops guys is fine.
He doesn't remember the ice. Listen, you don't remember the Ice Bowl. You remember the Ice Age.
But I don't remember the Titans, so it's a problem. Looking at the Packers and how this team is now coming back. You got Aaron Jones back on the field. You got AJ Dillon, who's not going to be overused where he's tired. But I don't think that's where the key of the game is. I think they need to get that running game back to where it was in the first few weeks. And that will open up the pass for Christian and for Romeo Doubs. And I believe also is Scantling on?
No, he's in Kansas City.
Wrong team. Sorry, Scantling left.
Yep, you're good.
Whoever. Oh, sorry. Tunyon, Robert Tunyon, have a chance to have a really good game here because look, yes, Minnesota shut down San Francisco last week, but it shut down a San Francisco team like San Francisco shut down Dallas with injuries and all that. We'll see if they can do it. I don't know. Dan.
This, to me, sounds more like make or break game for the Vikings. Vikings have proven to us that they can beat big-time teams. So take that pipsqueak and kick their ass. That's what the Packers are.
Yeah, feed them the rotten cheese.
Because, and look, I know Kirk Cousins has now looked like himself all season. True Kirk Cousins is good. Like, there's a reason why he was paid all that money years ago. And there's a reason why he's always been a starting quarterback. He's a competent quarterback. It's the reason why there's rumors about the Jets trying to get him, because he's good. So we know it's there. How do we unleash it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a terrible team like the Packers. I don't want to hear any more about the Packers. They're terrible.
No. Packers are they're done.
And Jordan Love had 4 years. 3 years.
He sat on the bench, watched Aaron Rodgers.
Can I interject really quick on something?
Absolutely.
This Twitter account Bovado just tweeted a video from the Jets-Giants pregame, and Aaron Rodgers is doing full dropbacks and like 25-yard passes.
Yeah, but
how is this man walking?
I'm sorry. I
didn't
see that. That's
they're showing they're showing on ESPN as well. I saw.
Oh, okay.
They're showing.
That is amazing. That's a year-long recovery. You got to give the heart and compassion. Sorry.
Until I see it happen, it's not happening. He even said it on McAfee. He had a bad week in recovery.
Right. I'm just saying that's just encouraging.
So I don't want to hear any more about how he's going to be playing this season.
I'm not saying he's playing this season, but just the fact that he's walking and doing this stuff only about 7 weeks after the surgery is incredible.
I got to be honest here. No, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy. Always supported the guy. This feels like hey, don't forget about me. I could still try to do things despite I need the spotlight. This is the move because this team has played well enough.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. This team has played well enough. And it's not even to the point where Zach Wilson's going to take his job. It's just like, listen, you want to be there, support the team? I'm grateful for that. But I don't need to see him dropping back and getting every Jets fan's hopes up. By the time he wants to come back, he takes a drop back and he re-tears the Achilles.
Thank you so much for saying that, Rifkin.
Yeah.
This is all about him. And this is exactly why I didn't want him. This is exactly why I didn't want him. He was going to make it all about him. It's not about the Jets. It's not about him being for his teammates. It's about Aaron Rodgers.
Because by the way, here's the thing. If the Jets lose this game, what's the talk about tomorrow? Not that the Jets lost this game.
Well, that's not
Aaron Rodgers was able to drop back, so he's
exactly.
Well, but that's gonna be part of the Jets losing.
Yeah. No, I know, but
that's
you know what I'm saying.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But this is selfish Aaron Rodgers because he cannot stand not being at the top, not being the topic of conversation. He had to keep his weekly interviews with McAfee. He had to, be on the spotlight. Oh, look at me, no crutches. I forgot my crutches. Like, come on now.
By the way, if he was able to walk and do the things he did, he wouldn't ride on the stupid thing into MetLife Stadium. The cart thing.
I'm sick and tired of this guy. I never wanted him here, and clearly he is not here to be that mentor. He's here because he wants to be in the spotlight. What better place than New York? It's all about me. All eyes on me. This is all about him. And if he comes back for the playoffs, guess what? He's going to make it about Aaron Rodgers. He can't stand it. I'm sick and tired of it. This is why the Jets should say no and stick to Zach Wilson and make him pissed off. And let's be real. Get him out of here because I don't want him anymore. I'm sick and tired of it.
All right. We'll cover 2 games and then we'll wrap this up. Bengals Niners we've got. Brock Purdy cleared concussion protocol. He's expected to play. Trent Williams and Debo are both out for the Niners.
This to me is a huge game, not for the Bengals, but for the Niners, because you are on a 2-week tailspin after, a lot of us could have forgiven the game against the Browns. One of the best defenses, you didn't have Debo, and then you lost McCaffrey halfway through the game. I could forgive that one. And it came down to a last-second field goal. Like, if the guy makes a field goal, you win. But then you go to Minnesota, and you did not – Minnesota was up 16-3 at one point, or 16-0 at one point. It was something like that. And you weren't able to come back to that. This is a huge game, I think, for the Niners. You have to bounce back and be like, no, we're back to that team again. Because if, let's just say, the Bengals do what they did to the Cardinals the last time they played, there's a conversation going on here of like, what happened to the Niners?
Well, if they're out, Debo and Trent Williams, they do have the bye week next week, so they'll probably come back after that. But Mark, I feel this is a bigger game for the Bengals, actually, just based on how the AFC North is playing out.
First thing I would like to apologize. I am never on my phone when we're in a live broadcast. This had nothing to do with sports. This had to do with family. So I apologize to anybody who was watching. Going on quickly. Dealing with the Saints, the 49ers and the Bengals. Noah just said it all perfectly. And Mike, you said it. And I know Dan's going to say it. This is all about the Niners right now. And yes, you got Christian McCaffrey who's in, Brandon Ayuk, and George Kittle. But now let's look at Brock Purdy, clear from concussion protocol, means nothing. It means he can play. A little dab to the head, by God forbid, you could cost this kid his season, if not his career. So I think playing him is a mistake. That being said, you're on a 2-game tailspin, as Noah said. So how do you not start the guy who's getting you there? Christian McCaffrey, oblique, ribs, and knee. All issues for him, but he's gonna play. He's not 100%. The two people on your offense who you now have to rely on heavily are Brandon Ayuk, who's having an astounding year, and George Kittle. Going up against I don't want to call them soft, but I don't want to give them all the process. The Bengals defense hasn't been great. Not horrible, but it hasn't been great. They should be able to contain the 49ers if they watched what Minnesota did last week. And if they follow that same type of rule, the Niners are going to lose their third game in a row.
The only reason I say this isn't a big game for the Bengals, I mean, it is, Mike, but the only reason I say it isn't as big for them is because I think even if they don't win the division, I think so many teams in the AFC have disappointed so far this year where I still buy them as probably the top wild card contender.
You can buy them as that, and I buy them as a playoff team for sure. The only competition the Niners have in the NFC West is Seattle. They've already beaten the Rams once, and they beat the Cardinals. Right. And neither one of those teams listen, I don't know what the Cardinals' plans are. I don't think they're going to contend. And the Rams are playing the Cowboys today, so I don't expect them to win that game either. So they're going to fall to 3-5, and that's still 2 games out.
Right.
So, Dan, anything on this quickly?
So it is a bigger game for the Niners. We touted them as one of the best teams in the NFL. At the highest of the highest of the highest, and they lost 2 in a row. So it is a bigger game for them. But the Bengals got to show me something here, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that should be an interesting one. I think that's your America game of the week, whatever they call it. One-word answer very quickly. Bears-Chargers. If the Chargers lose this game, Brandon Staley fired by Wednesday?
Yes.
He would be the first, yes.
All right, so
the easy one for the Chargers
should be. I picked up their defense in fantasy.
I don't like any of the Bears quarterback or their situation. Period.
All right, 2 quick rapid fires, and then we'll close out. One deal you'd like to see happen at the trade deadline. Mark, try not to make it a Cowboy deal.
It will not be a Cowboy deal. There's only one person I see that deserves it, and that's Saquon Barkley going to the Miami Dolphins. I have been calling this for a while.
I'm going to say let's get a guy out of Tampa Bay who I think is having a career year and deserves to go to a better team, and let's go to a team in the NFC who I think needs just one more big weapon. Let's send Mike Evans to the Lions.
Ooh, okay. Dan?
A team that could use the help. To keep an eye, I know the Browns aren't going to shop. Myles Garrett. Let's get him to a team, let's say Buffalo Bills, who could use the tightening up on the defense a little bit.
You know what? No, you went with a right mindset. I'm going to go bigger. The Lions should go get Devontae Adams.
Oh.
I don't care the price tag. If I'm the Lions, I'm all in. I'm pushing my chips in because we're on the prowl, baby.
What if the Raiders, just really quick, Mike, what if the Raiders ask for Amon-Ra St. Brown?
I would tell them to go hug Josh McDaniels.
Go air out their grievances in a meeting.
All right. Last rapid fire, yes or no? Kyler Murray not going to play today. Did practice. Should the Cardinals plan to play Kyler Murray at all this year, or just take the year off?
I go yes. I go yes because you have to see if you want to go with him next year. Because if he shows promise, then maybe you use your first round pick to maybe get him a big weapon.
All right. So let's see what happens. Dan, are you shaking your head? I can't really tell.
It's a no.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm also a no, mainly because I don't believe in Kyler, and I would not want him getting re-injured and possibly hurting his trade value.
He's a distraction.
All right, Mark, fantasy player of the day.
I'm going to make somebody in this group happy. I'm going Zach Wilson, baby.
Okay.
I think with him playing in New York, this is his time to prove he is a New York guy and he can win it.
And also get rid of that narrative about his bye-week adventures in Utah. Like who cares? Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't
who's
bring that
never
up.
had
I left that
adventures
out.
in Utah?
Oh yeah, that was really dumb. Like
That's
he
the-
can't have a break.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And
It's the bye week.
Yeah, it's the bye week. It's the whole point of it. For me, my fantasy player of the day is gonna be Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going against a Raiders defense that, other than Max Crosby, is really nothing to write home about. The secondary is very weak. Look for Amon-Ra St. Brown to have a huge day on Monday.
Listen, cue up the Michael Jordan. I took that personally. C.J. Stroud. The Texans play the Panthers today. C.J. Stroud is going to be, hey, you should have taken me first overall, Carolina. And the Texans are winning Carolina. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Sunday Sideline Report here on the SIN YouTube channel. Follow us on the socials. We're on the Facebook. We're on Twitter. It is not called X Marks the Spot. We're on Twitter at SInSanityReal. Facebook is the network name. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Noah Tremblay, Mark Halpern, Danny Boy Reginald. I'm Mike Rifkin. Thanks for listening to Sunday Sideline Report here on the Sports Insanity Network. Enjoy your football Sunday, everyone. Oh, Mark,
What's up,
what's
Mark?
up?
Yeah. No, last but not least, again, thank you to Rudy Campos and Sweep the League for all their help and everything and the talking about the mock drafts. By the way, you're about to get 298 emails from Mike, the Pun Master Rifkin, with 298 different draft possibilities.
Oh, boy. I could have so much fun. Enjoy